Hi, I'm Jeremy Crosby.
And I'm Nick Boucher. We're the hosts for the program that's all about your city, Talking Fitchburg.
Every day, we pull together the news, events, and information you need to stay on top of what's happening in the city of Fitchburg.
Find Talking Fitchburg on cable TV, Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, and our live stream on the web. Plus, you can view all our headlines and stories on Facebook, YouTube, and our video on demand service. This is your city.
Keep up with Talking Fitchburg and the issues that affect you and your neighbors.
Want to know what's happening in your city? Get Notify Me messages from the City of Fitchburg. Visit fitchburgwi.gov on your computer or mobile device and select the big Notify Me button on the left. Enter your email and/or phone number, whichever is best for you to get notifications. Scroll down the list and select all the topics you're interested in to receive email or text messages about. You'll be notified every time one of your topics is updated. Sign up for Notify Me, one more way to keep up with your Fitchburg government.
Being 5:30, we'll call to order this meeting of the Fitchburg Board of Public Works for Monday, September 16th, 2024, held in the Francis Huntley Cooper Council Chambers. Tonight we have a full quorum going from my left to right: Alder Jetzer, myself, Dave Wilborn, Kim Lobdell, and Don Gutowski. So we have our esteemed committee is in full attendance. Public appearances for non-agenda items, I don't believe we have any tonight. So that takes us to approval of minutes from the September 9th meeting. Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion. I'll second.
Who had the motion?
I had the motion.
Moved by Kim, second by Don. Any questions, corrections, additions?
Aye.
Bill? Seeing none, we'll call the vote. All in favor of the approval of the minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The minutes are approved. Next, we have agenda item 4, report of Director of Public Works, Mr. Tim Volker, PE.
A couple project updates to start with. Our 2024 street resurfacing project, the bike pass. Those were the 3 bike paths at Wildwood South, Prairie Park, Mickelson Parkway to Fish Hatchery, and the multi-use path at Quarry Hill Drive and Shale Road. Those 3 paths were completed last week. And then the 2 half-court basketball courts, one at Hillside Heights and the other one at Seminole Glen Park, were also completed last week. So street resurfacing project is complete, and the only remaining items are punch list items for that project. Our 2024 street maintenance project, that's our crack filling and chip seal project. The contractor finished crack sealing last week, and then the milling and chip seal were previously completed. So on that project, the only remaining items are the punch list items. And then our sidewalk replacement project, there's an agenda on tonight's agenda regarding the upcoming resolution for the assessment hearing for the sidewalk project. So we're looking to have that hearing at our next Board of Public Works meeting, which is Monday, October 7th. And that is really it.
Questions for Tim?
Tim, question. I was going to save it for the change order one, but does the city ever do a Cape seal?
Not that I'm aware of.
Can you explain that? I don't know what it is.
I don't know what it is. It's a chip seal, and then they do a micro surfacing, so it makes it very smooth, almost like a mill and overlay would be. It just makes it very smooth, where the mill and chip leaves a lot of ruts in there, so it might be problematic for plowing, might not. I don't know.
Yeah, the micro surfacing I'm very familiar with. We utilize that in Florida. I know we have looked at it. A couple municipalities up here do utilize it. That's something where we've talked internally about potentially going to. The chip seal with the micro surfacing we can also look at and see how that performs, and if there's any other adjacent communities utilizing that, and kind of how it's performed, especially in the cold and snow with the plows.
Could you follow up on that? If there are adjacent communities, could you maybe let us find a street or whatever and see if you could ask around, that maybe I'd want to drive out there and look at it.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, there. If it's 50 miles away, I probably won't go, but if it's on Prairie
I'll take my bed for a ride.
Okay, there you go, Dave. Dave's on for a road trip to check out the Any other questions? Good question, Don, thank you.
I've got another.
Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah. So, Tim, I got a notification today that says the fall hydrant flushing is happening today through October 31st. Is that right? It's 6.5 weeks of hydrant flushing?
Well, so the unidirectional flushing program was just recently completed. We had hired Strand engineers to do that, so kind of coming up with a more efficient way on flushing our water mains. So we've been holding off on doing that maintenance, so we have quite a bit to catch up on, but the whole purpose of the unidirectional flushing is to utilize less water and kind of strategically flush the lines by turning on and off certain valves so we're not wasting water. So yeah, we do have a lot of work to kind of catch up on and want to get that done prior to obviously winter coming. So
Okay, so that was not a typo.
that was not a Scribner's error. That was correct.
Okay.
Just for, people's, on the flushing, it happens during the day. So if you concern, don't do your laundry during the day. Wait till the evening before you do that if anyone's watching. Any other questions? I just have one. Is it next week we'll have the sidewalk, the bids or the awarding of the bids for the sidewalk work?
It will be referred out at Common Council next week, Tuesday.
Okay.
And then Board of Public Works, we'll see it on Monday, October 7th. And then we'll have the preliminary hearing, or the hearing, public hearing, not preliminary hearing, public hearing for the sidewalk assessment at that same Board of Public Works meeting.
Okay.
And then the contract award will also go to Finance and Common Council the following week, which I believe is October 15th,
Okay.
Tuesday.
All right. So I'm just looking at my calendar here, keeping in
Or
track.
actually, no, excuse me, because there's the second Tuesdays actually falls the same week as Board of Public Works, so it'll be Tuesday, October 8th. We'll award the contract.
Okay.
And we spoke to the contractor already with for the sidewalk, and they can start right away, and they don't foresee an issue finishing the work within the time frame we listed within the bid solicitation.
Did you get a chance to consider having them do those concrete pads for those 3 fountains?
I spoke to Scott about that, and he said they already have a contractor under contract to do that work. They're just waiting on the contractor to mobilize. So Jordan was going to follow up with them to see when they can start the water fountain projects.
Well, we've heard that story for quite some time.
Okay.
I'm quite sure these guys would more than happy to do it for us. So
Yeah, we can definitely have that work incorporated into our project.
they're too busy. I know it'll get done. With the sidewalk contractor. I'll let you handle that. Okay.
Okay.
But we would like to see that done this year. Yeah. Okay. All right. Anything else? Thank you, Tim.
You're
Appreciate it.
welcome.
Okay. Next, we have 5A review items, review of utility P card and check payments. So does anyone have a question for Tim on these?
I had one question.
Bill has one.
Yeah, so there's a check for Core and Main annual Logic software as a service renewal.
Yep.
I'm imagining this is those radio transmitters or whatever monitoring the. Please tell us what that's about. I'm
For our
curious.
meters.
Is that what that's for?
Correct.
Yeah. Is there publicly available data sets, or is that strictly for internal use?
Internal use.
Okay.
Thank you. That was my question too. Any other ones?
Just more for my education, there's a bunch of Menards purchases for Tower B. Are we remodeling a room in there or something?
Yeah, we are building an insulation room inside Water Tower B, which we have similarly at our other water towers. So we're doing that in-house, so it's our staff purchasing the materials to build that room, to insulate the equipment.
And then my other one, just, and don't go into any details with it, but there's a lot of general ledger procurements. What's a general ledger procurement? Just give me an example, just so I know.
General, where is that specifically?
The summary of general ledger account numbers, the very...
At the bottom?
Yep. Just give me an example of one of them, what it would be.
Like and I don't have the codings all memorized off the top of my head, but like say 240 could be 602 means it's water, and then 563 is an account, and then 240 would be like equipment for water. Okay. So it's just kind of an accounting account on how to, put towards your equipment in certain categories, and training would be in other categories, all your wages, insurance in a different category. But it tracks it all for water, and then 603 would be, or 604 is stormwater, I believe. 603 is sanitary sewer.
Could you provide the board a list of the I assume we have a list of what the general ledger numbers are somewhere.
I can get those numbers, email that.
So we all have those. I know most of them, but my memory isn't that good. I do. I'm looking at this a long time.
Thanks, Tim.
You're welcome.
Anything else, Don? Kim? Dave? Okay. Let me move back up to the agenda then. So next we have Agenda 6 Alpha, Resolution R 16424, approving change order number 2 for 2024 street resurfacing project. Do we have a motion to approve?
I so move we approve R-164-24.
Moved by Wilborn. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Don. So I believe this was our previous slurry court. Slurry seal did not adhere, and so when our resurfacing would not work, and so we had to essentially kind of start from scratch. And I believe it was additional $51,000 for this change order.
That was change order number 1. This change order will be $391,468.70, but there's an available balance within the current street resurfacing purchase order. We had an underrun in quantities on that project of $157,815.92, and then we had a contingency of $233,652.78. So there's no budget amendment required for this additional resurfacing.
So on, the ship has sailed. Did the vendor that did that originally, was he who we had doing the same work again this year?
No, the slurry seal contractor was not the same contractor that we had do the chip seal.
Did he do the slurry seal again this year, though?
No, slurry seal we're not doing anymore, because we did see the delaminating on several of the roadways. Not quite sure. I had Ross kind of look into the year it was applied, and Seminole Highway, it looked like it was applied back in 2004, and then Fitchburg and Nesbitt, we couldn't find any information on. It looks like maybe the last time the city applied slurry seal was back in 14-15, so it's been several years, and they've kind of went towards the chip seal.
For our next year for the street resurfacing, I don't know if we have something we want to look at. The streets you have planned, maybe have Ross check though, or you guys check them first, see if we have a similar problem. But that we're aware of it, before it starts, and you can estimate the work better.
Yeah, absolutely. Every street we walk through first. I think in the future with the delamination of the slurry, we just mill and overlay from the start.
Okay.
There's not many roads left like that. There's just a few. So as far as where there's already a slurry seal on it, we would just look to mill and overlay.
Okay, all right.
And not try to chip seal.
Oh, good. So we had 157 available that they underspend on this, and then we had 230 of contingency. And
Correct.
Okay. Questions from the board?
Yeah, and the 233,000 whatever of contingency, the number that's listed in the packet is the number that is required to bring it up to the estimated contract amount, right? There's still like $10,000 worth of contingency that is
there's still available contingency. We didn't utilize 100% of that.
Yeah.
And I believe there's still maybe a couple other underruns too that they're tweaking, but
Unrelated question. I don't see Osmondson Road in here. What's the story with that? 'Cause that has the same problem?
is not in here, correct. I think what we're talking about internally right now is incorporating that into next year's resurfacing because there isn't that available balance to also cover Osmondson now. So we'd look to include it in 2025 and have that done in spring as one of the first roads of that project.
So the condition of Osmondson, has that been milled off and is it quite rough like Seminole is?
Yeah, it's maybe not as bad.
But it's going to, Osmondson will remain that way till the spring.
Till spring,
Okay.
until we can get the milling contractor back for 2025. But like I mentioned, we would have that be one of the first roads that they can do just to get that taken care of.
So are they waiting for us to approve this to do the work, or have you've already given them the okay?
So they tentatively have scheduled it, obviously contingent upon the council authorizing it next week.
Okay. So how many approximately, how many miles of road? Is this a couple miles? Looking at Fitch
Less
Road.
than a couple, I believe. I have the square yards. I don't have the mileage
Okay.
off.
All right, I got you. Square yards is what's important. Yeah.
And they would look to start this work Monday, October 7th, and they think they could finish it within a week and a half, milling and resurfacing.
Okay. Questions? Don?
I've got one. So there's mention in here of milling, and there's also mention of wedge milling. Can you tell us what the difference is?
So the milling would go over the entire roadway width and length. So we'd do a 1.75-inch mill. On Seminole, we do a wedge mill because they don't have the curb and gutter on the edges. So they'll just kind of, I guess, mill off the edges and then come up with the overbuild.
Okay.
Just, we don't
To get
have
the
to...
road down to the shoulder
Correct.
in the absence of a curb.
Okay. Good question. Don?
So there is a cost savings associated with that.
I'm sorry, Tim. Didn't mean to interrupt.
Just so I have it clear, you're not milling all the slurry off?
Seminole, we're not. Seminole's getting wedge milled on the edges, but Fitch, Rona, and Nesbit will be a full 1.75-inch.
So you're going to put an overlay on top of the slurry?
No overlay on top of the slurry. Everything's getting milled off.
Oh,
It's already,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Kim, have you run into this in your extensive experience?
We have, and slurry doesn't work in a lot of cases, so it's probably the best solution that can't be done at this point in time.
My question is, when's that going to be done?
When is the work going to be done? Looking to start October 7th, and then they're looking to have it wrapped up within a week and a half, 2 weeks.
So the road will be shut down for a week or something?
No road closures, lane closures for this work, and then we would, kind of notify residents to use alternate routes, but they will have flagmen out there for the lane closures.
The reason I'm asking, I have a bus route right through that same area.
So there'll be lane closures, no road closures.
So there'll only be one lane to use, you're saying?
Which specific road are you? Seminole, or because Fitch-Rona's has turn lanes and
Fitch-Rona.
Oh, Fitch-Rona?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Fitch-Rona, they do a lane at a time through there.
Tell the flagmen to favor the school buses.
It's going to be interesting.
All right. Any other questions? All right. All in favor of approval of this resolution R-164-24 signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion carries. Bear with me, I page back up. Next, we have Resolution R-167-24, preliminary resolution declaring intent to exercise special assessment police powers under Wisconsin State Statute 660703 and the Fitchburg Code of Ordinances, Section 10-215, for the cost of sidewalk replacement in the city of Fitchburg. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve Resolution R-167-24.
Moved by Lobdell. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Alder Jetzer. This is pretty much similar to what we did last year. What is how does the square footage or square yards we're doing this year compare to last year?
I do not have that.
Okay.
I can send you an email
I could
tomorrow.
I could send you these questions before the meeting. I'm sorry. So the list of the sidewalks is provided in here, the locations, but these are not, it's not the entire street. It's select sections in these areas. Am I?
Correct. So tripping hazards are prioritized as getting repaired as soon as possible for this project, and then the available budget after those repairs would be small visual defects like hairline cracks, cracks within the sidewalk that would get repaired after that until the budget got used up.
And just for people watching, what is who pays?
So the city has an assessment policy, so where sidewalks exist on one side of the street only, the replacement cost would be split between the property owner and the city, 25% to each side of the street, and then 50% to the city. And then that's scenario number one. Scenario number two is where sidewalks exist on both sides of the street. The replacement cost shall be split evenly between the property owner and the city, 50% to the adjoining property owner, and then 50% to the city. Then for scenario three is for replacement sidewalks other than residential properties. So with one or two family dwelling units, the property owner shall be assessed the full cost.
Thank you for that rundown. Questions on this? Alder Jetzer.
Yeah, when we were doing the curb replacements, it was, as expected, there was rebar connecting the adjoining segments, but we don't seem to do that for sidewalks. Is there, can you talk a little bit about that?
Sidewalks, you can use a wire mesh or fiber as reinforcement too. So that the city spec has, a standard PSI that we call out for strength, and then rebar we don't utilize for sidewalk. Then for sidewalk that goes over driveways, it's thicker to handle the vehicle load.
Yeah, with individual sections heaving, I would have thought rebar would.
And we may require, I would have to check with Zach, our he's the project manager engineer on this project, to see if they do dowel in. Sometimes with slabs, they'll dowel into the existing and what they're pouring. I'm not quite sure if that is a requirement on that, but I can check to see for the differential settlement.
Just curious.
Don?
Last time we talked about this, Tim, in the assessments, there was another percentage alternative for folks that had corner lots. Seemed to me the main line, they got 50% and then 25%. I'm not seeing that in here. I just remember when we talked about it last time, corner lots actually got another break, I guess.
Yeah, I would have to check the assessment policy to see how the corner lots.
And maybe we done away with it. I don't know. I just remember that last time we talked about it. I think the gentleman that came here saying he had different thickness too. Yeah.
Yeah, he was, yeah.
And then just a general question. We do this annually. How much do we actually collect based on the assessments and everything? Do you got a rough ballpark?
Yeah, last year it was maybe $50,000 of assessments, and the project was over 100,000. And I could pull up the final assessment report.
I'm just wondering if the costs going into assessing and everything ends up costing more than what we actually get back.
I don't believe that's the case, but yeah, it's a valid question, question to ask.
Yeah, let me just pull it.
So you'd guess it'd be pretty close to half, because most of them are cities paying 50% and somebody's paying the other 50%, except for unusual circumstances. So,
Well, sometimes part of it's city-owned, or sometimes
tree roots.
Tree that the city planted caused it. But relative, 50% range.
That's probably one good reason for making the project big enough so that it covers the assessing costs.
That's a good point, Kim. Yeah. Good point.
Yeah, and I just have the preliminary, so it'll be not the exact numbers, but the project was about $160,000 total project costs, and then the total assessable project cost was about $47,000. So about a third.
That'd be a little higher, but I guess I don't know all the. I'll have to read through the preliminary assessments, and look at that a little closer. Any questions on this?
And once we have that public hearing with for the assessment, the preliminary report will be available there, so you'll be able to see that percentage for this project, for this 2024 project.
Anything else from the board?
Well, Dave, you've been on the board for at least 2 or 3 years, right?
Yeah.
From year to year, is this a pretty steady amount of replacements typically, or are there spikes in the?
I think we had kind of a lull for a while in doing some of these, and I think the amount that we saw last year was a little bit, maybe a catch up. I think this is a normal amount, but it will be, Bill. I would expect the amount to continue to go up because we're adding, we're adding more sidewalks. Keep in mind, we didn't have sidewalks when we started, and we're adding more footage of sidewalks every year. So I would expect this number to continue to grow. There's an offset. A new neighborhood shouldn't need a sidewalk for many years, but we've been putting in sidewalks for a good number of years now.
But back when we first got on it, there was hardly a sidewalk out here.
Yeah. Very few.
A few years ago.
32. 32 years.
And I found that the final report for 2023, so the total project cost was $101,671, and the total assessable was still $47, so almost half, so 50, it covered about 50% of the project. And then I found that the corner lot requirement also was listed in the report. If the sidewalk is adjacent to the long side of a corner lot, the property is assessed at 25% of the cost. And that only applies to single or two-family homes.
Yeah, I seem to recall, I didn't know the numbers, but I didn't see it in this document. So,
And Tim, what is, as far as the uneven, what's our criteria? Say it bumps up and one side is higher and the other drops. Is it a inch? Is it a half inch? What is our?
I want to say it's a quarter inch. Anything above that is what we...
Quarter inch?
Yeah.
Really?
I think the true test would be to put you out in a wheelchair and then have you test various differences and see.
There you go. I think you're right, Bill. That would be a good test. Yeah, my tolerance would be quite a bit different than someone that requires a wheelchair. Okay. Yeah, I would just add, that maintaining our sidewalks for pedestrians to use is a necessity for our city. Anything else on this?
does the project, Tim, do the milling? I've seen that in some of the sidewalk areas. It's not a replacement, but someone mills
like the grinding. You'll kind of see. I believe that the city has done that in spots.
Oh, it's not part of this contract.
But not part of this contract.
Bill?
Do we have any sort of an inventory on sidewalks? I'm curious. You said when you guys, 20, 30 years ago, we didn't have very many, and now, we keep adding them. I just wonder, if we had like a distribution of how old all of our slabs are, so what we can expect, project out into the future for maintenance.
Good question. Yeah.
So we do have a GIS database of the sidewalks. I'm not quite sure if the age is one of the attributes within the table, but we do have a map, and then the city's broken up into 7 zones. Mainly, most of the sidewalk falls within 6 of the zones. The 7th zone's kind of the southern rural area. So I don't believe many, if any, are in really that zone. But we do have GIS regarding that. And regarding the question with replacement, sidewalk is replaced if it is cracked with vertical or horizontal displacement, is lifted or sunken more than 2 inches, tilted, or has standing water. Okay. And then shaving is typically when it's less than 2 inches, we'll shave it down.
Thank you, Tim. Appreciate that. And when, I assume it's sometime in the spring or the spring after the thaw comes out that you guys do the assessment of sidewalks. When do you go through and determine which ones need it?
Correct. And even, winter, if it's not snow covered, and they'll go out and take pictures, and really we actually upload it into an app online, so anyone out in the field can even do it throughout the year if they see something. It's an available tool on their phone that they can take a picture, upload it. So Zach, could already have the pictures available for it.
Good discussion. Anything else on this? And we'll call the vote. All in favor of Resolution R 167-24, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next Board of Public Works meeting is Monday, October 7th. We have a few weeks here before we meet again. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Moved by Don. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Dave. All in favor of adjournment, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned.